Hello everybody, welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. I have a friend. Let's call him Gary. Gary believes it is improper for an adult man to go to an ice cream place and order an ice cream cone all by themselves and then eat it. And he believes it is even worse for that individual to take their ice cream cone back to their truck or car and eat it by themselves. What do you think about Gary and his opinions? Let me know in the comments below. Either say Gary's wrong, or I guess Gary's right. But like, Gary's wrong, or Gary's right. Regardless, let's talk about A Tale of Ice Cream. Glenmorangie has put out their 5th edition of the Tale series called A Tale of Ice Cream. Now this is a joint bottling between Dr. Bill Lumsden and Gillian Macdonald, who is now the Master Blender at Glenmorangie. And the idea was go to an ice cream parlor, kind of look at the menu, imagine all of the different flavors that they have going on there, and then try to make a whiskey that would accentuate some of the things that Dr. Bill really likes. But how are you going to do this? There's only so many different ways to get flavor into your whiskey. You have, of course, the grains, you have age, you have provenance, which is like where it is, the terroir, whatever. But then of course you have barrels, and this can include things like finishing. So in this case, they are aging this whiskey in ex-bourbon barrels, so that makes a lot of sense. You're going to be getting caramels, vanillas, peaches, apples, a bunch of other stuff that you would normally get in your bourbons. But then what they did is they did a thing called high vanillin barrels. Now vanillin is a term that you've heard on this channel before, but just in case this is your first video or you don't obsess about this stuff like some people on the internet, vanillins are an aromatic. And they are essentially a compound that comes from the lignin in the barrels, which is part of the structure of the barrel, that when you toast the barrel, the lignin breaks down and releases the vanillins. And that's where the vanilla flavor is coming from in your whiskeys. So Dr. Bill wanted to use this to really give a vanilla shock to this whiskey. And I think he did a pretty good job. We'll get into that in the nosing and the tasting. I've had this sitting out for a little bit because I did want this to open up. Now, in full transparency, I bought this today. And I've drank a little bit of this, probably a little bit more than even some of the other bottles that you've seen me drink. So this has not had its full time to really open up for a few days. But I wanted to get this review out because this is just hitting the shelves, and I figure that many of you might be looking at it, knowing what I think of the Tale series overall, and wondering what I think about it. So, here we go. Let's go ahead and give it a nose. So nosing this, one of the cool things here is that if you know what you're looking for, there's no mistaking that this is a Glenmorangie. If you've ever nosed the 10 or any of the other Tales series, or actually a good one to compare this to would be like the Nectar d'Or. That one's really, really close to what you're smelling here. This has a little bit more depth though. So let's talk about that depth. So the number one thing you're getting, that Glenmorangie, right? But then you're getting malt. And this is surprising because usually with Glenmorangie, it's not as heavily malted in the nose as this one is. However, it's also very sweet, and you are getting some of that vanilla nose here. But in addition, you're also getting lemon. And what I'm looking for here is anything on the nose that would make me think of ice cream. And you can get creamy flavors. I've certainly reviewed plenty of bourbons that have kind of a creamy note to them. I'm not getting that on a nose here, but perhaps on a taste. Another thing is that is quite oaky. It doesn't smell like charred oak, as some other bourbons might, but in this case, it does have a very strong hint of oak. So lemon, malt, vanilla, maybe a little caramel, but I might just be making that up because I know it should be there. So I'm gonna nix the caramel here. At least for me, I'm not smelling that right away. I think I said it, oak, and just maybe a little bit of like, I don't want to put the nose away yet because I'm really struggling to see what Dr. Bill here is pushing as the nose. Like when I smell this, it just smells like a fairly good Scotch, like a high quality Scotch, but a malty Scotch with a little bit of sweetness. And that's not screaming ice cream to me, but I don't know. Let's see. Cheers. At 46%, this is reminding you of that. Obviously 46 is not very high, 92 proof. It's just not as well rounded as I would have expected for 46% special release Glenmorangie. I realize I might be coming off a little negative here, and I do want you to realize I'm going to reserve my decision for the end. I'm just trying to be critical, right? You don't want to hear me just come on here and gush about stuff. I do that plenty. In this case, I'm trying to be a little critical because these Tales series are, for whatever reason, just something I really enjoy, and I want to keep buying them whether I like them or not. Kind of the way I feel about some of the Ardbeg special releases, which is actually kind of funny that Dr. Bill's involved with both. But anyway, let's try another sip. Okay, once the bite of the alcohol kind of drifts away on your second, third sips, you are definitely tasting some of the malt, but this is overtly woody. Oak is one of the main things you're going to be tasting here. And so in that case, you're dealing with tannins, and that's from the heavily charred wood. You're not getting smoke, though. You are getting, I mean, it's toasted. It's not charred. I've said charred a couple times. I'm sorry. Toasted is different. Charred is different. This is heavily toasted. And that's why you're not getting that smoke flavor. So what I'm tasting here is caramel, but like deep, rich caramel. It's not super sweet. There is almost like a black cherry flavor or black raspberry, some sort of dark fruit. I'm struggling to see why he thought this tasted like ice cream. And I did look online for a few other reviews just to make sure, because this was my opinion of this when I did my first taste on Patreon earlier. I just don't think I would equate this in any way to ice cream. Maybe that's me. I will say, I'm starting to get a little bit of like a toasted sugar going on, maybe leaning a little heavier towards like a creme brulee if I could pick out the creme part. But it is like a toasted caramel, which makes sense. It's heavy tannic. It's a little bit too much alcohol on the flavor for me. It's really kind of messing it up. So let me add just a little bit of water. One of these days I'll learn not to pour the water out of my Yeti. I just totally saturated this thing. So, I had to drink it and enjoy it and then poured myself another one. So there's worse things to do in the world. Nose is still pretty similar. If nothing else, it's like slightly sweeter. All right, let's have another sip. Okay, if the water does anything, it creates more of a vanilla flavor. Caramel is a little bit more subtle now. On the finish, actually, it's coming back out. So I would give it the very heavy. I would give it vanilla and caramel for sure. Malt for sure. This strikes me as a Scotch that was aged in an ex-bourbon barrel. It's really not doing it for me with the cream and whatever else that Dr. Bill's trying to get across. I'm really struggling here because I know the Tales series is good, but I've had enough of this. Like, I would be tasting what he wants, and you shouldn't have to drink half a bottle before you taste what they're trying to put out there. I guess let's go overall. I'm struggling here because I just don't get the flavors. And I'm trying to give the credit where it's supposedly due. I mean, I have a lot of faith in the guy. I really think maybe I'm missing something. And if I am, I'm going to do a wrap-up on this. Actually, I've got 5 of these tales. Let me know. Would you like to see me kind of do a head-to-head? I think that'd be kind of fun. I'm kind of struggling to do a little bit more content. I know I missed the last couple of weeks. I was sick. But I'd like to give you guys a little something extra. So let me know if you'd like to see that. All right, let's have one more sip and see if I can give this anything else before I give my overall. He's saying that you're supposed to be tasting peach, and listen to the description, right? So peach melba melts into honeycomb, which actually I did taste the honeycomb earlier, so I will put that one up there. I'm not getting it right now, but I did taste the honeycomb earlier. Peach melba melts into honeycomb, lemon sorbet trickles through brioche layers and shavings of marzipan, coconut flakes and fudge chunks are scattered on top, drizzled with toffee applesauce. That reads interesting to me, right? So let's break this down. Typical bourbon flavors, peach, lemon is more of a Scotch flavor, marzipan, bourbon flavor, coconut, we've tasted it before, but more so in Scotch than in bourbons. Fudge, so chocolate, that's definitely a heavy bourbon flavor. Toffee applesauce. Both of toffee and applesauce are classic bourbon flavors. It's almost like he thought about what flavors bourbon gives typically, and then tries to form what that could be. I don't know. This one strikes me as almost backward engineered. Like he wanted to do this crazy stuff with the ex-bourbon and the charred oak or toasted oak, whatever, and then decided what those should be like rather than what he was going for. Now, I can't say that for sure. I mean, I have no reason to really question the guy, except that I'm not seeing what he's going for. Okay, let's give it an overall though. This is a $100 bottle. It's I bought it for $109 today, I think. It's 46% ABV, no age. There's no hint whether it's chill filtered or any of that stuff, so we would assume that it would be. Same with natural color. I would guess this is probably natural color, but I'm not sure. It's not on the bottle, so it's hard to say. But what is my actual overall thought on this? For $100 for one of the Tales series, I do think this one is probably my third favorite Tales series. Probably behind the Tale of Cake, of course, is probably always going to be number one. And then probably Tale of the Forest, I would guess. And then maybe this one, and then Tokyo, and then probably the Tale of Winter or whatever it was called. I think that would be how I would order them, like just kind of going off my memory. So this is solid in the middle. Which kind of inclines me to say that you might want to buy this. If you're into the whole Tales series, I don't think you'll dislike this at all. I just don't think it hit the mark for what it was trying to go for. But that's me. So this would land between a try it and a buy it for me. I would lean more into the buy it. Even though it's $100, I think just for a limited edition Glenmorangie that you might miss if you don't pick it up, I still think it's worth picking up. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you've picked this up and you think well of it, let me know. If you think poorly of it, let me know. And if you've had some of the other ones, let me know how you'd rank them. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining me here on the Whiskey Dictionary. Make sure to check out the Patreon, where I release first tastes of whatever whiskeys I do. Usually it's not the same day that I'm filming the episode, but sometimes it is. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Cheers.